should tap the screen, maybe. It should, yeah, there's a.
So if you like, just on the top left, there's an icon for VoteCast.
Our tech support.
Double click it. As I said, double clap it. And then it'll say open. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, right? I don't even understand how they work.
We're ready to begin.
Okay, now where do we go? Here? Yeah, but I can't read anything.
We good?
Yeah.
Ready? Public Safety Commission is called to order. We begin to acknowledge that the land on which we gather and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and Gabrielino Quiche peoples. Doing our pledge tonight will be Vice Chair Blau.
Please rise and hold your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commission Secretary, can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Eng,
Here.
Commissioner Hallman,
Here.
Commissioner Pilarski,
Here.
Vice Chair Blau,
Aye.
Chair Harrison.
Aye.
We have a quorum.
Item 4 is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda for December 8th, 2025? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I will move to approve the agenda.
In a second?
Second.
So moved. Commission Secretary, may I please get a roll call?
Commissioner Eng,
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman,
Aye.
Commissioner Pilarski,
Aye.
Vice Chair Blau,
Aye.
Chair Harrison.
Aye.
The agenda is approved.
Next is approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes for November 10th, 2025? Commission Secretary, can I please get a roll call? Motion to approve.
You want me to do it? Okay, motion to approve.
In a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commission Secretary, can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Eng,
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman,
Aye.
Commissioner Pilarski,
Aye.
Vice Chair Blau,
Aye.
Chair Harrison.
Aye.
The minutes are approved.
Thank you. Commission Secretary, do we have any speakers at this time or any callers on Zoom?
Yes, we have speakers. I'd first like to call Joe Green up to the podium.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Joe Green. I'm a resident of the City of West Hollywood. I serve on the Disabilities Advisory Board, and I'm also co-chair of the LA County Commission on HIV. So first off, happy holidays. It's a pleasure to be here. I've watched your meetings online, so I'm familiar with you all. But my concern tonight is that I bring to you the Disabilities Advisory Board. One of our priorities this past year was making sure that the safety of the disabled community is paramount, and we didn't get there this year. We spoke a little bit with public safety, but what happened in the fires last January, and I sat there, usually I'm a Red Cross volunteer, I'm usually at the headquarters running an operation. That was the one time in 20 years that I sat in my balcony and watched what was happening. And I saw when the evacuation orders came in, not for us, but the alerts that came out, the people evacuated, but the elderly, the disabled, and the Russian-speaking community were utterly left alone. I was reaching out to my neighbors who watched Russian TV. They didn't even know anything was going on. They weren't getting the texts. They had no idea. The elderly people, nobody knocked on their doors. So we have to do better. I don't know how we can do better, but we have to do better for our disabled community. So thank you very much, and it's, again, happy holidays.
Next, I'd like to call Ed Hallman up to the podium.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ed Holman, longtime West Hollywood resident. I just have a question about safety policy or something that, if there is a policy. On my street on Thursday and Friday and today, Department of Water and Power of the City of Los Angeles had a big, huge hole on the street. And I just on a whim called the local number for Station 8 to ask them if they had to respond to a fire above where the thing was cut, because they didn't know about it. Which way would they come, Santa Monica or Fountain? And they said Santa Monica, and I told them, well, you wouldn't be able to make it because the DWP has a big trough in the street. And I was wondering if is there a policy in place if a utility company is blocking a street for tearing it up or whatever, do they notify the emergency services of the local area so that they will be aware of something impeding their progress should an emergency arise? So that's something, food for thought. Thank you.
We have no additional speakers for public comment.
There's no unfinished business on the agenda this evening, so we will move on to our Los Angeles County Fire Department's monthly report. I don't see the fire department.
Yes, our fire department personnel unfortunately are unable to attend tonight's meeting at this time. They may arrive a little bit later, so we can talk to them at that time if there's additional questions. But for the sake of the report and reporting the monthly numbers, I just wanted to share that for the month of November 2025, there was a total of 641 responses in the city of West Hollywood. Of those responses, 442 were medical in nature and 3 were fire related. And just for the sake of comparison, in the same time last year in November of 2024, there was a total of 616 responses. So comparable pretty much to comparing to last time this year. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them if we're able to. If not, we will make note of those questions and make sure that our fire department personnel are able to answer your questions by the next meeting.
Do we have any questions, Commissioner? I don't see our allied. Commissioner Pilarski. Sorry.
I did have a question about the hazardous conditions, the 6 hazardous conditions. Just wondering how those were documented. So this was an electrical wiring problem, and
Sorry, Commissioner, we don't have any. We have no one from LA County to answer.
but
Okay, for later.
If we can make a note when
Okay, sorry.
but I can reach out to them otherwise.
And sorry, just to clarify your question, you want clarity on the type of hazardous condition calls?
The electrical concern, yeah, that was the one I had a question on. If that was a house or if that was more of a city utility. Thanks.
Thank you. We will make sure to follow up by the next meeting.
Chair. Also, if I may, I want to follow up on the question with the fire department that Mr. Hallman raised about coordinating with emergency services when there's construction or planned maintenance like that. Certainly, DWP needs to have permits, so I assume that there's some sort of planning beyond just like Google Maps. I would hope.
Yeah, we will definitely follow up as well prior to next month's meeting to ensure that communication is happening with all of our public safety partners so they're aware.
Yeah, and I'll just hop in. Danny Rivas, Director of Community Safety. Good evening, Commission. So as it relates to any sort of plan work, when there is something planned, as Commissioner Blau just mentioned, yeah, they obviously will reach out to the city or the local jurisdiction, right, to acquire an encroachment permit, and then that will allow kind of those different agencies to be informed about that. If there's something that's like unscheduled, let's say it was an emergency or they had a break or something of that sort, they typically still do. I mean, they're required to do that, even if it's retroactive, but folks should be communicated, with in terms of any sort of issues or obstacles that may arise. So we'll definitely look into, the station that the resident had mentioned, and then follow up with them to ensure that that information is being shared. But it is shared with the city, and then that does go out to not just the fire department, it goes out to the sheriff's department as well. But there are times, I will say, where they get an emergency repair. I'm not saying that was in this instance, but if there's like an emergency repair, sometimes the crews will just get dispatched right from LADWP or from Beverly Hills Water and Power, et cetera, and they'll come out here and they'll make the repairs and retroactively go through the process with the city. So we'll figure out what happened on that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Pilarski?
Thank you, Chair. And just on the electrical utility coordination, I received a call from Southern California Edison about an outage that is going to happen coming up here in the next couple of days. And I just wanted to know if there was anything safety-wise that we needed to be concerned about for, getting notified, or if where this work is actually going to be taking place, anything like that you know of, Danny?
I don't. I mean, typically, though, if you do sign up, right, from
Yeah.
Edison, or if you're a customer of Edison, they should communicate that to you as a part of that notification. But if it was just kind of a general statement like, hey, you're going to be
Basically, you're
impacted
gonna
by the
be-
power
yeah.
outage.
You're going to be out of power for 3 days.
Yeah, which seems, 3 days seems pretty significant,
it's,
substantial.
I think it's like 24 hours.
I was going to
Yeah.
say 3 days
But
is a
still,
long
24
time.
hours is a lot.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And so, yeah, sometimes they do have rolling power outages, but, right now in the winter months, if there's a storm or maybe there was a transformer or something that blew out, that's very common, very typical. And so we get alerted no differently than the residents. I'm a part of the alert for everything in West Hollywood, so along with our public works team and several other departments. So when we receive those notifications, then we do at times, if it's just very vague, we'll reach out to the liaison and say like, hey, well, what's going on, what transpired? And sometimes they give you a window of time on, service is going to be off for, they'll, ballpark it always, in terms of this amount of hours. But if you'd like, you forward over to me the outage or the area that you're in, and then we can, I can reach out to our public
curious.
works team to try to figure that out.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Commissioner Eng?
Thank you, Chair. I would say hopefully that someone from fire does show up so that we can ask that question. I think actually, Commissioner Pilarski, it's important. One thing that I'd like to say is that anytime there's an outage, something that always occurs to me that I do at home is I try to unplug as much as possible so we don't create the surge. I'm just going to say that as a reminder. And obviously, again, when we have fire come in, we should, I think there's some general, right? Like, don't open your refrigerator because you want to kind of try to keep things as cold as possible. Other than that, I think we'll defer to the fire. But yeah, so the note I'll make is that please, everyone, unplug stuff when that happens. Thank you.
Yeah, and just so you know, it doesn't look like fire is probably going to be able to make it this evening, but again, if they're able to break off and somebody's able to come, then so be it. And it looks like 1049, as I pulled it up, is a residential property. So I think you had asked whether or not that was something that was like public infrastructure. It certainly doesn't seem like that's the case. But in terms of like the circumstances, of course, we don't know exactly what that is, but we can follow up with fire and then circle back with the commission on that.
Any other questions or comments, commissioners? We're going to move on to our Allied Universal Security Ambassadors update.
Yes, and we're going to have Jackie Hernandez, our assistant.
Welcome, Jackie.
General manager, that will be coming up.
Hello, I'm Jackie Hernandez. I'm with LA Universal. I'll be presenting the statistics for the month of November. As far as the west side of West Hollywood, we have a total of 1,709 hospitality assistants. We have 2,015 business contacts. We have 681 on-house contacts, 225 calls for services, 7 safety escorts. We have 149 scooter and proper parking, 4 sheriff's assistants, and 1 EMS fire. Following with Mid-City, we have 1,459 for hospitality assistants, 1,324 business contacts, 183 unhoused contacts, 163 calls for services, 6 safety escorts, 120 scooter and proper parking, 3 sheriff's assistants, and 0 for EMS and fire. And to finish off with the east side of West Hollywood, we have 1,469 hospitality assistants, 928 business contacts, 568 unhoused contacts, 315 calls for services, 12 safety escorts, 140 scooter and proper parking, 3 sheriff's assistants, and 4 for EMS fire. To total up citywide total, it would be 4,637 hospitality assistants, 4,267 business contacts, 1,432 unhoused contacts, 703 calls for services, 25 safety escorts, 853 bike miles ridden throughout the city by patrols, 409 scooter and proper parking, 10 sheriff's assistants, and a total of 5 EMS and fire.
So just to kind of add to that, kind of the total, if you're looking at all the different categories, and I think it was mentioned last month, we kind of been working, well, not kind of, we certainly have been working with Allied on, changing up the reporting in comparison to what we used to report on from the Security Ambassador Program. So I know there were some comments from Commissioner Pilarski and others in terms of kind of the visual and breaking out of the different reporting districts of the city to be consistent with what the Sheriff's Department reports on. If you look at the Sheriff's Department report, you'll see those reporting districts. It's something that we never had done before in the past. Yes, we did break up between the west, the center, and the east side of the city, but we never got down into the reporting districts. We're really kind of based on more or less, not in totality, zip codes, but partially, right? And again, kind of looking at trends, kind of seeing where calls for service are at, et cetera. It's going to be helpful as we're continuing to kind of build on that. So it is a work in progress. Certainly looking at next month's report to really kind of dive in deeper, not just with this, but also as you're used to being accustomed to kind of average call response time on those calls that do get put to the Sheriff's Department for assistance. You used to see a secondary page, if you will, right, from our previous provider on those calls kind of broken out, right, in the average time frame that it took and what it was regarding. So you will end up seeing that again. It's, obviously working through different systems, continuing to work at the map as well, and then also looking at other KPIs, right, key performance indicators that are associated with our agreement in terms of response time. In general, what does that look like on average, right? And that's something that's reported on monthly from our Sheriff's Department. And that's something that we did not report on before previously. And so we're working through those things as well as kind of compliance as it relates to training of the security ambassadors as well. That's definitely something that they're keeping track of, but, being able to kind of get that represented on a report that we're going to have, that we'll be able to share not only just with the commission, but obviously with the community, and then have that as included as a part of a monthly kind of ongoing rolling basis. And so in terms of the kiosk locations as well, everything is still being maintained. As is, we did make one adjustment that I did want to highlight and note, and that is that we did relocate the kiosk that traditionally was in front of the Ramada Hotel on Santa Monica Boulevard, and we moved that over to Santa Monica and Larrabee. And the purpose of that was hearing from the local businesses about some of the activity that was going on there. And so they had made the request, and given that when we looked at the Ramada Hotel kiosk, there really wasn't as much activity that was being reported, not just from our current provider, but even looking previously, throughout this entire calendar year. So moving it over to that location, again, Santa Monica Boulevard and Larrabee, so it is fronting the Santa Monica Boulevard itself, near where the old Flaming Saddles, if folks are familiar with it, and right on the other corner, you have Revolver that's there as well. And so wanting to make sure that we have more, active presence. But I do want to note that's not a 24/7 kiosk. That is something that's just in place temporarily during the hours of 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. to be consistent with the same level of hours that we had for the Ramada. And then we did slightly move the kiosk on Robertson and Santa Monica Boulevard. It's still within the general vicinity and on the same parcel, but we moved it west on Santa Monica Boulevard, just west of the driveway that leads into the Pavilion's parking lot. You have a bus shelter, and then you have an alcove there on the Pavilion side. And so we have been getting a number of requests as well from the community regarding certain types of activity that is occurring in that area. And so we just shifted it slightly, same hours, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. as well. 7 days a week, but we wanted to adjust that temporarily as well, just to kind of have a more visual presence with, all of the calls that and concerns that we had been receiving as well. So I think our last weekly meeting that we had, and Anita can correct me if I'm wrong, or Jackie, but I think we're at 99% compliance in terms of all of the staff that are on board with the Allied Security Ambassador, in terms of them going through all of the necessary training, Narcan, LGBTQ sensitivity training, et cetera. I think you're always going to have more or less kind of that 99 percentile because you have turnover and you have new staff that are being onboarded, et cetera. But that definitely is exceeding expectations in terms of making sure that folks are being onboarded, trained with the necessary information. Then, of course, you have that ongoing training as well, right, that continues to occur. And so that is one of the KPIs, as I mentioned, that we're going to be looking to making sure that we include as a part of the monthly report. So, Jackie, was there anything else to add?
We just continue having our ambassadors train. For the most part, everything, just the new staff coming in, we have training before we put them out on the field. The only reason why we're not at 100% with the Narcan is just because we've had some people out of town, and whoever comes in, we don't automatically give them the Narcan. We just train them first, and then as soon as the training is done, which would be within the same day that they start, the following day they get a Narcan to carry around while on patrol.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any comments or questions at the time? I have a few. One is a bike safety for the ambassadors was brought up in our last meeting. I'm just curious if you've been able to train them or advise them on, I believe it was taking over the lane at the time, because I've seen, and I just want to make a general comment that the presence has really been noticed of you all out there. Maybe it's the yellow, I don't know. But the bike safety question I was curious about, because I see the bikers coming down the street quite often, and I know that it's a subject that was brought up in our last meeting, so I'm just curious.
So for the most part, we do advise our ambassadors to take up a full lane. It's just safer for them. I know when vehicles are passing us, they do get upset. But if I've always been one to notify them, like, just take up a full lane. It's safer than just, being too close to the cars. We could get hit with a door, or, like, sometimes vehicles aren't paying attention, so we could get hit by a vehicle. So they've been taking up the full lanes. We talk to our ambassadors on a daily basis about that. Just try to, be aware, use your hand signals to notify if you're gonna turn or anything like that. We don't have them riding on the sidewalks, obviously for pedestrian safety reasons, but we do advise them to take up a full lane at all times.
Thank you. Commissioner Pilarski.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question on bike safety. We love Mine is also, I also had a question. We had, well, the city of West Hollywood had an event called Operation Firefly a few weeks ago. And one of the things during that event was handing out bike lights. And it came up with a couple of the ambassadors on bikes that they're having a hard time finding bike lights that are charged. So they go out and they don't have lights on their bikes, or the lights that they have run out of battery. So if there's anything that the city can do to help you guys get more lights for the bikes, like let us know, because we definitely want to make sure that everyone has charged lights on their bikes when they're out there. So.
Thank you. Yeah, so we have enough bike lights. We always have extra batteries, so that's always in our office. Any equipment that does get that is broken or anything, we, as soon as we can, we get it fixed. So I thank you. We do have bike lights and all that. So it's a work in progress.
Always.
You know,
yeah.
whenever
I just wanted
something
to bring it to
breaks,
your attention.
but I appreciate you so much.
I don't want
Thank you.
anybody out there without lights on.
Yeah, of course,
Thanks.
safety reasons. Thank you.
And then I had one other thing, just a question for Danny here. There was an incident a couple weeks ago where I was trying to help somebody out of the middle of the street. It seemed to be a repeat offender. So I called Allied and we went through the steps. But Danny, could you just, I know this was something that came up also at City Council, so I wanted to bring it to our commission here around the protocol for, elevating any situation that we see on the street.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because it is important. I mean, we did have that robust discussion with the City Council in November as it relates to that. And so we have had some changes to our security ambassadors and sheriff's deputies in terms of who they're contacting as it relates to social service providers. And when I say social service providers, I'm referring to Healthcare in Action, I'm referring to our care team. And so we had a couple of different numbers, of course, but the city's homeless concern line, which has been in place for quite some time, that is where we landed. When I say we, in terms of where we landed, that means internally between the Human Services Department and the city's community safety. And so they felt it'd be best to have, that one number that our security ambassadors or community members or sheriff's deputies, right, would be calling. And then that essentially serves as a dispatch line for human services and our social service providers. And so you should have, somebody capable of being able to respond to that call around the clock, 7 days a week. And then based on the information that's provided, again, whether it's an ambassador providing that information or a community member, then the person on the dispatch on the other side of the line will be able to send out either an outreach team from Healthcare in Action or from the care team. Or maybe it's a situation where they feel that both of those social service providers need some assistance in terms of maybe having some public safety agency support as well. But that would be the best number, that homeless concern line, whether you are seeing somebody that's experiencing a situation that you feel that they need to have some assistance provided to them. That would be the best number. And so that is a change, again, that we made within the last couple of weeks that I think is important to share. So,
Thank you. Commissioner Blau. Vice Chair Blau.
Yeah, that works. Thank you, Chair. Jackie, thank you for your report this evening. Just a comment, I really appreciate the map and the visual and the aligning of the reporting districts to the sheriff report. That really helps me, and I think it'll help everyone else kind of align apples to apples. What does our staffing look like currently? Are we fully staffed?
We're basically, I'd say like 95%.
Okay.
We bring in ambassadors. Not everybody will like the job. So, immediately we replace them. So it's not at 100% yet. I'd say like 95, 96%.
Okay.
I mean, we work on a daily basis bringing people in. We do have a really great team throughout all shifts. Everybody likes, for the most part, everybody likes being out there. They like being, on foot patrol, on bike patrol, whatever the case is. They enjoy what they do. So it's only a matter of time till we're at 100% fully.
Great. Yeah, and some of that, like Director Rivas said, not hitting 100% kind of makes sense as well, just with the nature of the beast, I guess I'll say. So you mentioned they enjoy being on the streets. I love to hear that, and they're obviously a very important part of the community. What's been kind of the general vibe, and what's been the experience, month 2 now in the city that the security ambassadors are sort of reporting back? Obviously, we've got the numbers, but...
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of them do mention the fact that they like going out there. They like, doing the, like, hospitality assistance. They like being present. They like helping out the unhoused. I think just helping them out is what makes the job so much better for us. And I say us because I myself like going out there. Just helping people is a part of the job. And if you're not that type of person that likes to help out, I mean, this isn't the job for you. But most of our ambassadors like being out there, trying to assist with the unhoused with as much as we can and getting them the resources that they need.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I don't know if you have any other updated information, but last month I asked about if there was any information or light that we could shed on the, I guess I'll call them notable percent variance changes year over year from the different reports here. I don't know if you have any updated information on kind of how we can understand the significant drop in some of these areas, safety escorts, for instance. Let's see if I scroll way down to the bottom here. Yeah, like safety escorts, pretty low. Sheriff assistants, obviously, that can be a little bit of a change.
So for the safety escorts, I mean, it's dropped down by 72%. That's only because we're not really getting much calls for safety escorts, even though it's been advertised. Even when we're out there, when we are at the kiosk, we notify people that, if they need a safety escort or if they feel unsafe for whatever reason, they're more than welcome to contact us via call or text. We just haven't been receiving many calls about being escorted. So
Okay, but
that's
you're ready.
basically the drop we have right there.
Great, so you're like ready to go, basically.
Oh, yeah. Whenever we get a call, we show up as soon as we can. And, we make sure that we escort whoever needs the escort safely, and we report back to our supervisors, or our ambassadors report back to us and notify us, they've escorted this person from this location to the second location, and it's been done safe.
Excellent, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Ng.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to start with a few questions for Jackie, and I think that there's a few of these might also be for Director Rivas. First off, you mentioned that you encourage your ambassadors to ride in a lane. I'm presuming you mean when there isn't a bike lane, or you're just telling them that they should always ride in a lane?
No, that's only when there's no bike lane.
And then I'll also point out that there are areas of the city that allow riding on the sidewalk, because I'm on the east side, and there's an area going to Gateway that's by the lot, the studio of the lot, that allows biking on the sidewalk. I do it. I know that, not everyone agrees, but it is allowed, so there. Okay, and then I guess to both of you, I don't know if this has been discussed before, but can you answer how many kiosks there are in the city total?
I believe we have 7. So it's La Brea, Fairfax, Veterans, La Jolla. We have the temporary one, which is Larrabee and Santa Monica, Robertson. Then we have our West Hollywood kiosk and our Plummer Park one, so 8.
But you did not mention Sunset. I think there's one up there now. Is there not? No. Okay. All right. And then Director mentioned that not all of them are 24-hour. Can you tell me, of those 8, how many are 24 hours? And then the second part of that would be, of the ones that aren't, are there set hours, or does it vary, and how does that work?
So our 24-hour ones would be West Hollywood Park for the restrooms and Veterans.
South Gorillas.
Veterans Park.
Veterans Park.
Yes.
Halloween. So.
And all the other kiosks are from 11 to 7 p.m.
Okay. And then I'd like to ask, because I was able to do a public safety tour with the Tri-West Neighborhood Watch with Michael Cotillo and Rob, whose last name I don't remember, but they actually were mentioning that they have a request to establish a kiosk. So can you address how that would work if residents or citizens want to request a specific kiosk, how that might work?
Yeah, I'll jump in. And good question on the number of kiosks. Yeah, and just so you know, it is actually on the city's website. So, you know, our dedicated webpage that we have for the security ambassadors actually has 9 listed, but one of them is not in operation right now. So Jackie is correct that we have 8 right now that are in operation, and then of the 8 that are in operation, 2 are 24/7. The rest are not. And the one that is not in operation that's listed there on the website is Kings Road Park. That is not yet in place. But we are looking to actually rotate a kiosk between Kings Road Park and actually Hart Park. So we won't have one at those 2 parks at the same time, but it may be like 1 month, right, at one park, and then we'll rotate it to the other park. So in terms of the request, as you mentioned, Commissioner Eng, so that is something that, of course, can be made to Allied Security, but is always consulted first with the city's community safety department. And so we review it. We're going to be pulling calls for service from the sheriff's department in that particular area. We're also going to be evaluating security ambassador calls for service in that particular area, right? So if there's a specific location, et cetera, I kind of mentioned that we did relocate the one from Ramada to Larrabee and Santa Monica Boulevard, but I can tell you that we did look at data, and I didn't mention that, but we of course do look at data to ensure that we're making a move, right, that makes sense. But know that if we're adding anything above what I just mentioned, you are essentially pulling several staff that are assigned out in the field for the security ambassadors that now are placed at a fixed location, right? So I'll just give you an example. It's not, you know, I'm not giving true numbers here, but let's just say you had 10 folks that are patrolling along Santa Monica Boulevard. And if we're placing a kiosk now at a location that we didn't already schedule for 11 a.m. to, you know, 7 p.m. kind of hour shift. So, you know, now you're pulling one, you know, ambassador, you know, from that 10, you know, that are supposed to be patrolling, right, Santa Monica Boulevard out of service per se, and now they're at that fixed post, which it's doable, and we do that from time to time, but obviously that's one less security ambassador, right, that we have on there. And then of course you have folks that are having to go and relieve that person if that person has to use the restroom, they have to take their breaks, they have to take their lunches, etc., right? And so there are also additional impacts, not just that one, right, security ambassador that I'm mentioning. So yeah, so that's more or less, and then there's transportation, kind of the operation logistics behind it, how to get the kiosks there. So it's something that we could consider, but again, if and I think you were talking about Bob Steloff and Michael Cotillo, as I remember that they had that scheduled. So yeah, I mean, they can certainly make the request. I know they're a part of the neighborhood watch groups, and we meet quarterly with them. And we can take a look at it, evaluate the situation, and maybe it's something that we rotate for about a month or so, and then we move it out of the area, or maybe it's something that we just increase security patrols, both by ambassadors, and then ask our sheriff station to have our teams, our special teams, kind of add some additional support in the area as well.
Okay, so some of the kiosks, though, are housed. I know Plumbers, that one is just housed there, right? I think Gateway, I'm guessing, has to be brought over there because I don't think there's any place to put it, right? So I would think that some of them are, like WeHo Parks, that one, if it's 24/7, it's not moving, right? So the 24-hour kiosks are there. And then I'm guessing that some of them are housed and then some of them have to be brought, correct?
Yes.
And then why 11 to 7? Like, why is that standard? Like, why maybe in Rainbow District wouldn't it be noon to 10 at night? Or why those hours?
Jackie, you want to try to respond and I can add to it, or do you want me to take it? All right, she wants me to take it. It's based on the volume of contact, but also for safety purposes. So when you get into the evening, late hours, now instead of one, and I'm glad you asked that question, if you're having later in the evening, now that one security ambassador turns to 2. So now you're pulling essentially 2. And from that perspective, from an operations, it just does not make sense for us to do that. That's definitely when we'll be kind of addressing an issue from a different perspective in terms of having more sheriff's department presence or something of that sort. So it all depends. We always assess and kind of evaluate things, and I'm not saying that we wouldn't pull 2 security ambassadors and kind of have them there to support each other, but we're always taking a look at the different types of activity. And in the Rainbow District, it's very transient in terms of visitors and folks that are coming into the city, right? And the volume of folks, and sometimes the crowds get a little thick on the sidewalk, right? It gets pretty packed. And so, putting a kiosk out there, having to worry about, who's behind you, if somebody's intoxicated, which typically in the later evening hours as well. So all of those safety and security factors play a role in terms of the decision there. But, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll also make note that when you say that if we set kiosks up in other areas that we're pulling people, we could increase the number of people in the day. Just saying. And with that, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hallman?
Thank you, Chair. Staying on the kiosk topic, Commissioner Ng, the one that's at Domain is actually housed at UPS. They're going to bring that out each day, which brings me to my question. Where are we with getting that kiosk out on Sunday? That's been a topic or a question for over a year. And if I'm correct, the UPS manager said they were fine with giving block by block a key, so I would assume they would give Ally a key, because that's the only day we do not have a kiosk at Santa Monica and La Brea, which is Sunday.
So, Commissioner Allman, I do remember that, and actually we did fulfill that request in terms of extending that with the previous provider. So we'll look into that and discuss. So my understanding, it was out there, but I obviously am wrong, because I know you walk that neighborhood and that area. So yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that, and we'll see whether or not the UPS store, if something's changed, and if not, allowing Jackie and Valerie to kind of make contact with them to see what we can do to kind of work something out.
Okay. Sorry, one more if I can. Thank you. I'm done. She can go.
Commissioner Ng?
Jackie, I want to make note because I did speak to the ambassador that was at that kiosk. I walked by there, and she had an umbrella. It was a really sunny day, and she said, I just got it. So if we could just make sure that they all do, because I think some of them end up kind of baking in the sun. So I know that's a minor thing, but yeah, if we could just make sure all the kiosks have shelter from the sun, that would be great for them.
Yeah, no, we definitely ordered a lot. For some reason, the umbrellas tend not to last long. I'm not sure. We gotta find better umbrellas, but every kiosk does have an umbrella.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Do you have any public comments?
We do not have any public comments for this item. I just wanted to add one thing. Danny mentioned the homeless concern line. I just wanted to share that is also open to the public and the community to use as well. So if you are ever out in the community and notice an unhoused community member that may need assistance, it's a non-emergency situation, and it could be something where they may need medical care or resources or access to shelters or some assistance, the community is also welcome to call that number, and I just want to share it with everybody. It's 323-848-6590.
can I ask a question just about that and how we're promoting it currently? Because I think it's a really important number that I don't think many people are familiar with. And I think back to our magnets, right, for our former providers, safety ambassador providers, and I think about how effective that was. And I think it's easy to say that we all are affected by unhoused living in the city and would like to have resources at our disposal, I think, more simply put. So I'm just curious what the plan is, if there's any additional promotion coming for that, or how you promote it to date, because I wasn't familiar with it.
Our communications department does work closely with our human services department to work through pushing out these resources and numbers to the community, but I will take the feedback about maybe a mass mailer or something along the lines that was similar to, I know Commissioner Blau loves the magnets. We will take that feedback back to them. And this homeless concern line is available 24/7, so there is help available around the clock at all times. So please use that resource as well. And speaking of magnets, the one for the security ambassadors with the updated number and all of the services that are offered with the program will be going out by next week at the latest. So please look for that in your mailboxes.
That's great. Thank you. And, Commissioner Hallman.
Thank you, Chair. In regards to the unhoused concern number, is it manned 24 hours, or is it a leave a message type of system and someone will get back to you? How's it set up?
It is monitored 24/7 by staff. However, if they are on a call, on a line, you may reach an answering machine. Please leave as much detailed information you can on that voicemail, and they will retrieve it and respond immediately. So it is constantly monitored 24/7 by a person. You just may, depending on the situation, receive a voicemail, but it does not mean that it will not be handled in an appropriate time frame.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Next up is, thank you very much, Jackie. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And great work. Thank you. Next up, we invite our partners at the LA County Sheriff's Department to provide their November activities report.
Good evening, Commissioners. I just wanted to introduce Sergeant Omar Luevano. He has taken over for now Lieutenant Jason Duran, who promoted and is now assigned to Lost Hills Station. Sergeant Luevano brings 31 years of experience with him. He has been on a very long time. 10 of those years have been here at West Hollywood. He's super engaged with the community. You name a business, he knows the owner. So we're very excited to have him. He's super proactive, and he is always working. He's always at the station. So he's definitely gonna do a great job. So excited to have him. Moving on with the crime statistics for November. For the month of November, West Hollywood Station personnel handled a total of 1,520 calls for service, and 75 of those calls were for an emergency response. Deputies made 43 felony arrests and 70 misdemeanor arrests. Our Part 1 crimes for the month, we had 158 incidents. When broken down by district, the West accounted for 66% with 105 incidents. The City Center, 18% with 27 incidents. East, 16% with 26 Part 1 crimes. There were 52 pickpocket thefts in the Rainbow District, and 34 of those occurred during the WeHo Carnival Halloween event. Our MET team responded to a total of 60 incidents for November, and our sort submissions were 75, which was largely a result of reports filed after the Halloween Carnival. Our West Hollywood Station volunteers donated a total of 195 hours for the month of November. And I wanted to touch on some traffic incidents which occurred in the city in the month of November. There were a total of 7 vehicle versus pedestrian traffic collisions. Of those 7, 4 collisions were caused by party 1, being the driver of the vehicle, and the remaining 3 have not been determined at this time. I wanted to note that in December, we have 2 planned DUI saturation operations planned, and those dates are scheduled, times are scheduled, and they're coming up very soon. I also wanted to report that of the 12 aggravated assaults in November, 5 arrests have been made. And our entertainment policing team is continuing to be present outside of the bars and clubs. And I also wanted to note that Captain Lapkin recently spoke at the Women's Advisory Board on safety when going out to bars and clubs. And we also continue to spread safety measures at the Chamber of Business meetings. I wanted to let you know West Hollywood Station has a car deployed for the holidays, and they will be responsible for conducting foot patrols in places such as the Gateway. The deputies are contacting shoppers and educating people on being vigilant when they place packages in their vehicles and being reminded not to leave anything visible in their vehicle when they go back and continue shopping. And with that, I'll go ahead and open it up to questions.
Thank you very much for the report. I'll jump in, start here. Can you sort of remind everyone, sort of public safety message here, of why it's important to report? And I'm glad to hear that people reported these events after the carnival, because I think it's important when we talk about data and whether it's setting up a kiosk in a certain area, we're grounding that in some data, right? It's not all purely anecdotal. I was getting my hair cut up on Sunset. I get it cut at a place at Sunset Plaza, and this woman had come in and asked to see the security cameras because she left her bag in the car and it was stolen out of the car. And they were standing there debating whether or not to file the report, and I encouraged them to, just because, again, I think it's become a little easier to do that now. You can do it online, but can you just maybe remind everyone why it's important to file?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. It's important to call us and let us know if you've been the victim of a crime. Because most likely that suspect has done it to somebody else, and we don't want them to do it to, somebody else again. So by reporting it, we're able to target areas that are having issues geographically, and send our special teams out additionally to target that area.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Commissioner Hallman?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask about the recent robbery at Trendsetter's Barbershop. It's Fountain and La Brea. And I'll preface by saying that I'm concerned with all crimes that happen within the city to residents and businesses. This one just hits close to home for me because it is my barbershop. It's 2 blocks from my home. So I was wondering, do you have any updates or information you can share with us?
So I can't, it is an active investigation. I can't get into all of the details, but I will say that we are working with the Los Angeles Police Department on that particular vehicle and similar incidents. A lot of times, suspects don't use their own vehicles. They rent cars. They go to rental agencies and sometimes use, identification that doesn't belong to them. So it isn't instantaneous that we often catch the suspect, but we will catch the suspect. But right now, it still is an active investigation, but with many leads.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Pilarski?
Thank you. I just want to say welcome to Sergeant Omar how do you pronounce the last name? It's Loevano, sorry. Welcome. And I also wanted to acknowledge, thank you for highlighting some of the stats that we don't normally highlight here in this commission. Some of them being, traffic violence. And I wanted to just give a little highlight here on stats for the year 2025. Vehicle versus pedestrian, 52. Vehicle versus bicycles, 13. DUI arrests, 67. DUI traffic collisions, 42. I mean, these are numbers for the whole year. So I'm really excited to hear that we have the DUI events coming up here in December. I really appreciate that, so we can be more proactive with the incidents happening on our streets. And took it right off my sheet here. And I also wanted to say I recently attended the active shooter training, and that was hit kind of close to home with the incident on Santa Monica and Formosa, where there was someone called in about potentially someone on a roof with a gun. So thank you for your tremendous support in that. And I was actually there when all of that was happening, and it was really well communicated, I thought, as a resident in the neighborhood. So wanted to highlight that. And the only other thing I had here was the heat maps. Something I'll talk about in my commissioner comments, but I know I did use the crime mapper for the first time the other week, which I'm not sure if anyone has used before. So I would highly recommend you guys to check it out. It's through the West Hollywood Sheriff's Department website. And also the city is preparing like a vehicular data dashboard that will go live soon. So now that we have the security ambassador data and we have this vehicular data from the city, and we also have the crime mapper GPS data, it's all really coming together. So excited for that. Thank you.
Do we have any public speakers at this time?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All your service. And welcome. You've been here, but welcome to the new position. I see we have a speaker request. Kevin Burton. Sorry, you came up. Okay, you came up. Okay, you're popping up on my screen. Sorry. Next up is the item 8D. The Public Safety Commission will receive a brief overview of the City of West Hollywood's response to the January 2025 Los Angeles County regional fires.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. We wanted to bring this item forward. It is something that the commissioners have mentioned would be of interest for them to hear at the Public Safety Commission meeting. We just want to remind everybody this presentation was made to the City Council in June. So this is just kind of a quick overview of that presentation and the information that was provided regarding the City of West Hollywood response to the Los Angeles County regional fires. So just some quick 4 highlights that occurred in 2025 that impacted the city's preparedness, readiness, and ability to communicate with the community in the event of an emergency. One of the highlights was the Los Angeles County Regional Fire Response that was received by the City Council on June 23rd of this year. The other was the city's crisis communication plan, which was presented to and received by the City Council on January 21st of this year. There's also been improvements and upgrades that have been made to the Nexel Everbridge texting messaging abilities that allow us to reach the community effectively. And the other is the ongoing training opportunities that have been made available for the community and city staff that have been enhanced. Trainings such as CERT alumni. We have the CPR, AED, and first aid training, active shooter training, fire drills, earthquake drills, and fire extinguisher training. So the city's Los Angeles County Regional Fire Response was received by the City Council in June 2025. That document is available on the city's website. It really dives deep into the details of how the city responded to this emergency in regards to communications, in regards to our public safety agencies coming together and addressing the emergency. If you were to pull up the report, it does say draft on the report, and that is by design. This is a continuous working document. As a city, we are committed to enhancing it, updating it, working on it, and adding updates to it. So that is why you will probably forever see a draft on that document because we will never be done with that. Things change, the environment changes, technology changes, so we will continuously be updating this document as a city collectively with our other city department partners. So a quick overview of the response to the fires. On Monday, January 6th, the city of West Hollywood received an alert from the LA County Fire Department that indicated a red flag warning would go into effect the following day. The city immediately began coordination across the organization with our public safety partners, our public works department, our communications team, and all the different organizations that would come together in the event of something happening as a result of this red flag warning. So staff from the West Hollywood Sheriff Station and Los Angeles County Fire Stations 7 and 8 were present in the multi-agency command center in downtown LA to ensure that we were receiving updates, communications, and coordination for all of the different activity that was going on in the region at that time. As the first Los Angeles County regional fires broke out on Tuesday, January 7th, the city of West Hollywood actively communicated to community members and city staff with a message of safety and vigilance. So the emergency activation and coordination, just a few highlights of some activity that took place immediately. So continuous coordination with our county fire, sheriff's department, and county and federal agencies. The communications were immediately implemented at that time. Key staff members from the city gathered at City Hall through the evening and the night of January 8th, 24 hours around the clock at that time, to form a crisis response team to establish ongoing communications between staff, our public safety partners, our community, our field services operations, our economic development teams, the way businesses would be impacted, and our communication leads. The city issued real-time public information via news releases, website, social media, email blasts, and the city's main phone line was updated with a message in case any callers were calling to receive information. Our public works team deployed their teams for field assessments. They were looking for block roads, downed wires, downed trees, any obstacles that our community members or our public safety partners would encounter in the event an evacuation was needed. The city distributed N95 masks to community partners and staff and maintained 24/7 human services line to assist any unsheltered and unhoused members that needed help. And we also ensured continuity of essential services, so meal delivery, mobile health care, and crisis response plans were all in place. We immediately also contacted and partnered with Red Cross to identify potential evacuation locations and coordinated with hotels on their availability. Again, in the event that we had to evacuate our community members, we wanted to ensure that we had Red Cross as a partner to make sure they would be able to assist us with our evacuation centers. And if we needed long-term housing for our community members, we wanted to establish that conversation with our hotels early. We lifted parking restrictions. Transportation on standby for vulnerable residents was also immediately in place. So there was buses and alternative transportation that we had ready to implement in the event that there needed to be evacuations in place for the city of West Hollywood. And we worked with our West Hollywood Park and our ARC City Center staff to make sure that we were ready to organize an evacuation shelter in the event that there was an evacuation. All staff were on hand and ready to implement a shelter if needed at either one of those sites. Recovery and response. So after the events that occurred, the city of West Hollywood here in the city hosted a FEMA Disaster Assistance Center at the West Hollywood Library. And so that was just to give an opportunity for any surrounding community members that were in need of assistance and resources after the events to be able to have a local resource to come to, and they didn't have to drive far to find one. The city passed urgency ordinance on January 21st, enabling extended hotel stays, waived business license fees for home sharing, and suspended one-year lease minimums for fire evacuee housing. In terms of communication, our communications team, we're constantly in collaboration with the multi-agency team that was out in the downtown area to receive updated information. They were listening to all the regional press briefings that were released. They conducted 24/7 media relations, news monitoring, news release distribution of 7 releases. They were posting actively on the fire update-related social media content, news releases, alerts, and advisory at WehoCity and via email for those that were signed up to receive notifications. And they were posting daily updates at the city's fire updates website. And we're also providing legitimate places where individuals who wanted to help could donate or provide support. They were posting that on the WeHo response page because we were receiving a lot of questions from the community on how they can help and how they can assist others and our public safety partners as well that were out responding in the region. We also activated the emergency website banner on the weho.org, so that way if somebody went to the website, they didn't have to click around in 50 different places trying to find the right link or the right website. It became the automatic kind of banner when you entered the City of West Hollywood website that would then lead you to all of these resources, all of these updates. And of course, regular communication was taking place internally to inform our city council, our city staff, all of our public safety partners. We're constantly communicating internally so that in the event the threat did enter or get close to the City of West Hollywood, everybody was aware of what was happening. So key learning points from the city. We were, of course, our residents reached out to us through various platforms. Some attended city council meetings, some commission meetings. We had some speakers that came here after the event that happened. We had some that directly reached out to us through the other board and advisory meetings. We were listening very closely as a city of what concerns came up as a result of that incident and that emergency. So enhanced alerts and multilingual access was one of the top items that we heard from the community. So an increased emergency text alerts with linked maps, provide messages in various languages, engage in multilingual staff for translations if people are calling in so that they have a familiar voice that they're hearing and are getting accurate information. Centralized communications, so boost info sharing across city, LA, county fire, sheriff, and partner channels so that there's a consistent message being heard across the region. WehoTV and hotlines, so expanding the use of WehoTV for real-time updates and activating emergency status hotlines with recorded messages to be able to handle the influx of calls that are coming in. And community engagement, so leveraging CERT alumni, neighborhood watch captains, appointed public officials, and contracted social service providers to disseminate updates locally. So the ongoing progress from the city's side is a commitment to safety, so especially to the vulnerable population, people with disabilities, older adults. They may require additional assistance, whether it be how they're receiving the information, whether it be during an evacuation. So it's really taking planning for that vulnerable population into consideration with the city's emergency response plans. And strategic focus areas, so developing clear procedures and methods for individuals with mobility, communication, or medical support needs. So again, making sure that we are taking into account the different groups in our community that may need additional assistance in the event of an emergency. The city released a crisis communication plan that was received by the City Council in January of 2025. This communication plan really goes into detail about how the city will roll out communication depending on various different types of emergencies. So this plan is also available on the city's website, and it really dives into what the community can expect in terms of how the city will communicate out to the community in the event of different types of emergencies that may occur in our city. So this plan establishes clear protocols on how to communicate timely, be transparent, and also be consistent with communication and how that's being rolled out. It defines different types of crises and different types of emergency and kind of the response framework of how the city will approach different scenarios and templates for how they will release information in terms of holding statements and resources so that if something were to happen, we are ready to go and the community can receive information immediately. And also it outlines how we will coordinate and work with our public safety partners and different county agencies in gathering information and disseminating that information out to the community. Nixle and Everbridge is a really important piece of the communication when it comes to local communication here in the city. We have really tried to promote this platform and having our community, if by texting their zip code, especially if you want to get West Hollywood information, if you text your West Hollywood zip code to 888-777, you will now be signed up to receive any emergency communication that goes out by the city, by the sheriff's department. And so that way you are receiving live, accurate information from the source and not having to rely on, maybe a random social media page or rumors or maybe what my neighbor said or what they didn't say. You will get direct information directly from the city. So please text your zip code to 888-777 and you will receive direct information from the city and our sheriff's department if there was an emergency. So the city, we heard from our community. They expressed a strong desire to receive more information during an emergency, even if it may not necessarily impact the city of West Hollywood immediately, or there's not an evacuation in the city immediately. If it is in a close area, close city, close region, that we heard that they want to be informed of kind of what's happening and receive more information. So this platform allows us to do that in a better way. In the event that there was an emergency that truly affected the city of West Hollywood community and evacuations were needed or information needed to go out to our community immediately, we do have an option through our Everbridge portal where we can reach 42,000 residents even if they are not signed up to receive Nixle communications. So this is absolute an emergency option that we would use. We would not use that for basic information. This would be an absolute emergency that is affecting the city of West Hollywood and the community and the residents. So by signing up for Nixle is where you would receive the general information. You would also receive emergency information, but you might receive additional emergency information that may not necessarily always be particular to the city of West Hollywood. But we are committed to only using this for emergencies, so we will never, by signing up for this notification, you will not be getting random messaging that you are not interested in, coupons to the car wash, anything extra that you do not care for, you will not be receiving. So it is an important item to be in the loop on this direct information. So just a quick touch on what happened with the messaging that did go out during this time that caused a lot of uncertainty, fear, and chaos for our West Hollywood community. On January 8th and 9th, some West Hollywood residents did receive text messaging that alerted to emergency evacuations that needed to be happening immediately that were not issued by the city of West Hollywood. One alert came from the city of Los Angeles during the Sunset Fire evacuation warnings and was intended only for Los Angeles residents. It was not meant for any of their city West Hollywood residents, but they did receive this text message, which again caused that fear and that panic of having to evacuate. And another alert was mistakenly sent out. This was countywide by LA County, which they immediately followed by a corrective text message immediately after that. So just a quick touch on that, on what had occurred. We don't want to promise that it won't happen again. And the reason I say that is because a lot of our cities in LA County, LA City, we cross, I mean, one side of the street could be LA County, what could be, city, one could be, we're in West Hollywood, other side is Beverly Hills. A lot of our zip codes overlap. A lot of our, our city boundaries are very tightly defined. So when the city or the county sends out messaging, if you are close enough to the area that they are trying to communicate to, there's a very high likely chance that you will again receive that message. So what we are doing on our side, what we have already done since these fires, is we are working closely with our county and city partners who send out messaging to work on the wording to kind of clarify, to provide clarity exactly on where where the evacuations are, who they are for, if it's for LA residents, it's for, if it's Beverly Hills, something is happening, that we will clarify, what city this is for. So it's always good to get the notification, and that's what we always say in an emergency. We'd rather more people know about it than less. But unfortunately, if some of the wording isn't perfect, it can lead to that miscommunication and that chaos and that fear and that confusion. So chances are in the future, if something were to happen again on that LA side, even on Beverly Hills side, on any of our borders where another jurisdiction sends out emergency messaging, there's still a very high likelihood that our residents in the city of West Hollywood will also get that message. But what we're working on doing is just improving clarity in that message so it doesn't entice panic. And then also from our city side, collaborating on that messaging so that if we need to share messaging to our residents to provide clarity and direction, that we also can do that as well. So prior to emergencies, the city, again, is working to have these plans in place. These plans were already in place, but again, the January fires really just created that reminder of how important it is to continue these conversations and make sure that we have we're continuously training on these topics and continuously having conversations about them. So asset management, so maintaining an up-to-date inventory of city-owned emergency tools so that depending on what the emergency is, we know what we have in inventory to implement. Quarterly emergency reviews. So we are currently in the process of finalizing the update to our emergency response plan, and again, quarterly reviewing our crisis communication plan, and that includes, talking through internally with our public safety partners about evacuation centers and preparation for major incidents. Public communication tools, again, technology constantly changes, so making sure that the city is involved in expanding any options for enhancing community, using our billboards, using our kiosks, the digital kiosks, anything that we can do to make sure that we are reaching everybody in the community depending on what type of communication that they prefer to receive communication in. And emergency alerts and outreach, we continuously promote Nixle and ask people to sign up for that, for the emergency alerts. We've been releasing that on various publications in the community to make sure that we are continuously pressing that message out. Increasing emergency text alerts with linked maps. I think that, we've talked here about how that visual is so helpful when you can see what exactly someone is referring to, and then that way if there's a language barrier, the maps always help as well. So providing messages in different languages and providing maps will help kind of break that communication barrier. And again, if in an event of an emergency, the city would pause non-emergency social media. Any city, it will all be focused on whatever is happening at the time in the region. And again, utilizing WehoTV, our hotlines, and using our city partners that we have access to share information. Preparedness phone cards. So in May of this year, we mailed out to 32,000 residents and business community in the city of West Hollywood, and it was sent in English, Spanish, and Russian to all the community. And this provided really a guideline of all the different resources, reliable resources that you can lean on in the event of an emergency. So this was just kind of our way of making sure that our community knew in the event of an emergency who they can turn to if they want information directly from the city, if they want information from the county, whoever it is that they feel the most comfortable leaning on and want information on. It kind of provided 6 different outlets of how you can get the best information, up-to-date, accurate, verified information. And as mentioned, this is a topic that is never done. Will always be a working topic for our community safety partners, for our public safety partners. All our different departments within the city all have a hand in this emergency preparedness role. So as a city, we're committed to continuing having these conversations, continuing building on the training, finding opportunities to share this information. We attended different board and commission meetings after this event to get the feedback of the different groups and how it impacted them specifically, to make sure that we are considering all of the things that we learned from this incident into our future emergency response plans that we have for the city. So that concludes the presentation. And again, thank you for keeping this conversation alive, even here in the commission, even though this was taken to our city council. It was still an important conversation to continue to have. So thank you.
Thank you very much, commissioners. Any questions? Commissioner Pilarski?
Thank you, Chair. I do have a few things here. And I first wanted to say thank you so much. It does deserve the extra time because we're almost a year back here, and we want to make sure that we've used those 365 days to prepare ourselves a little bit better than we were, or just to, Commissioner Ng always tells me she has her whole kit ready to go. Always very important. I need to do better on my side. I wanted to touch on what Joe had said earlier. There seems to be a pretty big sticking point here with the clarity of communications, right? Everybody experiences this differently. And in my professional world, we use safety drills where we'll set up a process and then we'll drill it out and see if it does what it's supposed to do. Is that something that we can do as a city? Sometimes there's like tests or whatever. Is that something that we've ever done here, or that we might consider in the coming years?
That has definitely been a conversation. We have been doing a lot of the Nixle and Everbridge testing internally. So with city staff, we will send a message to the entire city staff doing a test. There's options to respond on this text message depending on how you sent out the communication. To verify it's been received, they can reply. You can show, there's a lot of great data points that you can receive back from Everbridge and Nixle. So we have done a lot of testing out with our city staff. So the possibility of doing a community-wide test messaging is an option as well. We just, you just want to be selective of not enticing fear. Sometimes people don't, they don't see the testing and they think something's happening, or they receive an alert and then rumors start. So, we've done it with groups at a time just to make sure that we're rolling it out in a way that's most effective. But yes, it is up for consideration.
Okay, thank you. And then also on the clarity of communications and the expectations of what the city will be doing and, maybe what we won't be doing as a city. So I think that's really important to hear, And if you haven't had a chance, I really like to see these, it's almost like 3 pages of lessons learned in this report, which is really awesome when we talk about transparency in government. Seeing 3 pages of lessons learned is awesome. It means that we're really taking a hard look at what we did and what we need to do differently. So, and I also liked to see the first page of what the city did do. I mean, that's a lot of bullet points. And I can't say that I personally experienced all of these, but it is good to know about them when I'm preparing myself for the next emergency. So if you haven't read this report or at least the bullets, I would encourage everyone to do so. The one thing I had, there was some conversation about the city's new website. This is something that might be coming out soon or something. I was wondering, has there been a conversation internally in the city around, how we use the website information versus the new Hello WeHo website? And then the other thing I always come back to is the user experience in the communication that we receive, right? So if we go on weho.org and it's just paragraph after paragraph after paragraph of information, it's really hard to digest that. Yes, we're getting the information that you have, but it's just like sometimes unattainable. I was wondering if there have been conversations, or maybe there's an opportunity to have more conversations around the experience of the emergency communication with the new website.
Yeah, all of our, thank you, Commissioner Pilarski. All of our city departments are all open to feedback on how they can improve, listening to the community on what their experience is, what their preferences are. So we encourage any community members, any residents, if there's any feedback you have about any of our city services, to please share that. We all of our city departments really truly do care when they receive that feedback and like hearing back from the community. So if there's any feedback you have about the city's website and moving through it or navigating through it, please feel free to email me. I'll be happy to share that with our communications team. I know they would be very happy to hear any of that. So yes, any feedback is definitely welcome.
Okay, that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ng.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to start with the fact that the Sunset Fire is actually what inspired me to apply for this commission. I left another commission that I loved a lot, and it was because of the Sunset Fire. And I want to start with the fact that staff was working 24/7, which you said. I know you were, because I tracked it. And some of our staff members were also in danger of losing their own homes. And I know that all of you worked your butts off to keep us safe, and I'm really grateful. I want to acknowledge that. And as I think many of us know, our city manager lost his own home during this fire. And again, everyone worked with such dedication. So I think all of us are super grateful for how hard you worked and how dedicated you were, and the results of which showed, because none of us were all alive. Next, I'm going to address something that Commissioner Pilarski said, and that's as much as we can all be prepared, when those things are happening, you're not always cognizant. Like, again, I have 6 fire extinguishers. I didn't move a single one of them. Yeah, and afterwards, it was like 3 days later where I sat there and thought, I could have put them all by my door. Again, I've talked about having multiple gallons of water. All 5 of us, I could, if there's ever an emergency, right now I could put all of you with water for a week, literally. And I didn't move any of them, which is really unfortunate. It really kind of comes down to being cognizant when these things are happening and being aware. And I think, things like fire drills really help. I want to ask Manager Shandy, I know that we're talking about this report that was brought to the City Council, but it makes mention of an independent report that was commissioned, but that's not what we're looking at this evening, and I'm curious why.
Commissioner Ng, I will have to look into that piece of the report and to see if that was commissioned or finalized. I'm not 100% sure on that.
It is out. I did find it on the internet, so I know it's out, and I did read. I think it's about 103 pages. I think I read the first 10. So that is something to make note of. It would seem that the independent report.
Commissioner Ng, are you referring to the LA County?
The McChrystal? It was the McChrystal report.
But Los Angeles County, the report that they had hired a consultant to.
I believe that I thought that our city was part of commissioning that also, no?
No, that was, if you're referring to that, that's a completely independent, separate report that was commissioned through the County of Los Angeles Board of Supervisors as it relates to the Office of Emergency Management, specific to the Eaton fire, because that is an unincorporated area mainly. And then Palisades, a fire that occurred, now that's in the City of Los Angeles jurisdiction. There were some areas of county that were impacted as well, but that is a separate, 100% separate.
Because both of those fires are named in the report, but that's good to know. Okay. And then, you all can move on. I'm sure my other thoughts will come to me, and I'll come back if I need to.
Thank you, Commissioner Hallman.
Thank you, Chair. I'm curious, we do a number of activations in the city. In fact, we have the ice skating activation going on now in the park, which I think is great. We do the summer concerts in the park. Has staff ever considered taking advantage of some of these opportunities to reach out to people that are attending to get them to sign up for Nixle while you have that captive audience? Because I think it is important to get as many people signed up as possible.
That is definitely an opportunity. We do at various events like at Pride and Halloween, try to take opportunities to have a booth available just to talk in general about preparedness, having people sign up for CERT and just various different topics. So it is something we can consider for some of those activations as well.
Yeah, I just think it could be a useful opportunity just to have materials there that people can take, when they're coming, because, Pride and Halloween, that's just a whole different ball of wax. People have a different focus on those events. But maybe some of the smaller events, like, again, the concerts in the park, I think could be a great way of reaching additional residents that may not be actively signed up. And that's it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Vice Chair Blau.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for this report. I really, really appreciate it. I only want to touch on, I guess, 2 points in here. And I don't know maybe if these points would be within the emergency management plan or within the crisis communication plan, but it's also with respect to the communication point. And obviously, I know it's never going to be perfect. But from my own experience with the fires here, I think what was missing was communication to ease panic, because I panicked. I'll just outright say that. And going through this is the response report that was presented, dated the draft one that you mentioned. You know, it definitely says it a little bit, but I think what I kind of would have taken away from this experience to make it better, right? Better user experience would have been, you know, some of the communication about, like, you know, you don't need to evacuate. Please don't evacuate, as one half of it. But then the second half is, which I've learned now much more after the fact from, I guess now Captain Lapkin, is, you know, more information on the tools that the city had at the ready to be able to get us out safely or to handle that evacuation. I think that kind of stuff would have definitely eased some of my mine and others' panic at the time, certainly as we were watching all the fires go. And then the second one is with respect to Nixle. I guess just my feedback here, because I don't know where else I would provide this feedback. You might run into an issue where, you know, if we can't narrow the scope of the messages, I'm getting blasted all the time with these messages. I just looked yesterday, I got 6. And so it's to the point where I'm kind of like, oh, actually, I almost want to unsubscribe because it's happening too often. I don't know where else to provide that feedback, and I know it's the optional kind of broader scope one, but I wish there was a way to narrow the scope in some method. But yeah.
So with Nixle, you are able to sign up. Sometimes people sign up with multiple zip codes, so I don't know if maybe at some point in time you sign up for a different one, but if you're getting them all from, are they all coming from like the county, or we can maybe touch back. I'm just curious of like where you're, especially if you got that many just yesterday. It'll be interesting to hear where you're getting from. But sometimes there is a capability of signing up for multiple zip codes. So let's just say somebody has family in a different city and they do want to receive notifications about that city as well. You can sign up for different cities too. So I'll definitely curious to touch base with you on that. But it should be, when you sign up for your city, it should be pretty much what is within kind of your area, your region, unless, again, there is a county-wide or city-wide emergency or threat happening. Then again, I know, like you mentioned, sometimes it's annoying getting these messages, but we'd rather you know than not know. Maybe you're traveling somewhere, maybe you have intentions to go somewhere, or you have family in a certain area and you can share information. So, but I do understand there's that thin line between like being informed and being annoyed. So,
right.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the same experience with Nixle, and I know that I put it in one zip code, so I'm curious, and I guess I just would want to avoid deleting all of them, because similar to other organizations that reach out constantly via text, you know, they're tied just automatically to stop, delete, report. I don't want that to happen. So if you could follow up on that, maybe in our next meeting, just to see if we could hyper localize it, or if there's a way to geolocate this further, I think that would be helpful. Do we have any? Thank you very much for the report, by the way, and I agree with everything everyone said. Just to see, I remember that first meeting after the fires, and I cannot believe that we're close to a year from that tragic event throughout our city. Just to see everything that was noted and accounted for, that we talked about very passionately, and hear from WehoTV, WehoTV, everything. It's appreciated, and I think we probably all feel a little bit better, you know, when the next event does occur. So thank you very much for that. Are there any public comments at this time?
We do have one public speaker. I'd like to call Kevin Burton up to the podium.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kevin Burton, West Hollywood. I just wanted to firstly give kudos to the city for a couple of emergency response related events they've hosted recently. That is CERT training. There were, as I understand it, 18 graduates recently came out of the training carried out by the County Fire Department, and they're not here, of course, but they deserve credit. And this is an ongoing effort on the part of this city, and it's certainly important that it continue as much as possible. Secondly, as Commissioner Pilarski mentioned, there was active shooter training last Saturday. I also attended that. It's very important that everybody attend that, I think, because a lot of important information, and it was nice to see the Public Safety Commission represented at that event. I want to echo the comments of an earlier speaker in the sense that elderly Russian communities and others don't always get the message of the building I live in. There are a number of elderly Russians. And when this was occurring, the Sunset Fire, I had been traveling on Fountain, I had to look at it, and then came home to see what people were doing. Over half had no idea anything was happening. And so I informed them and explained what was going on. It didn't require evacuation, but they ought to get their things together unless, in case something happens, they should be ready to leave. The message there is there are a lot of people out of the texting loop or email loop, as much as we would like everybody to be right in that loop. The fact is, they're not. And so additional efforts are made that don't involve that kind of technology need to be made. And Council brought forward a directive earlier this year, Council members Erickson and Meister, that the city study installing emergency sirens and loudspeakers for public alerts throughout the city, as Beverly Hills has already done. So I trust that that study is ongoing. I think that would be an important addition to this report. That way, it's gets people's attention right away. There are a lot of people in the city at any given time who are not in the city's communication loop, and they should be informed along with the rest of us who are. Secondly, my understanding is there has been this was spoken of at the report to the council, an ongoing comprehensive review of the city's emergency response plan. And I thought that that was going to be nearing completion toward the end of the year. I don't know where it's at, and I look forward to the community getting updates both on the emergency sirens and the emergency response plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, item 9 is agenda from staff. Are there any community safety updates?
Thank you, Chair, members of the Commission. This last Saturday on December 6th, we held an active shooter training that was open to the West Hollywood community on best practices, situational awareness, responding to injuries, and more in the event of such a situation. It was a great morning spent with the community, sharing valuable information and training. The Los Angeles County Fire Department hosted community emergency response team training last month at Plummer Park. Thank you to those community members who attended and participated in the training. We will be sure to include the new members and all CERT alumni communication. We will also be announcing the 2026 CERT training dates early next year. This concludes the updates from the Public Safety Division. Thank you.
Thank you. And are there any additional public comments at this time?
There are no additional public comments.
Commissioners' comments? Commissioner Eng?
All right, well, I, as liaison to BLC, was able to attend that meeting. And in it, they were discussing the public hearing was about the removal of the requirement for the neighborhood security guard for the cannabis businesses. And to those who don't know, the state of California does require that each dispensary or cannabis location have a guard. And I believe the city of West Hollywood implemented the requirement for a second guard, which was removed. I know that there was some pushback on the fact that it was brought to council, but Director Rivas, the way that I understood it is it was similar to the discussion about having bars go to 3 a.m. In other words, it was a change to the entire program, which is why it went to City Council and not directly to any of the commissions. So that was my understanding of how that went. It made sense to me. I'll also offer that in my mind, it would have been the purview of the BLC and not ours. I'll also mention that the impetus for my involvement or my activism in the city was about cannabis safety. And so I have been tracking, and I do want to say that that the issues that existed that would have required the second guard were that it is still a cash-based business, and there might be robberies of or customers could be targeted, as well as there might have been consumption in and around these retail establishments. I've actually tracked from both commissions, and I understand that neither of them has really been an issue or a problem. Now, I'm sure we all know that people are consuming cannabis out in the streets. If you have a complaint about that, you should definitely let Code know, or Allied, or the sheriffs. But in terms of it being reported, these are not reported problems. So I did understand that it made sense that the requirement for the second guard was removed. Yeah, and that's it. That was my my BLC report. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Vice Chair Blau.
Thank you, Chair. I guess I was looking at my calendar, since we met last, I actually had a chance as well to go to the Veterans Day ceremony with Commissioner Ang and Post, which was lovely. I wanted to also share a reminder with the community about, given the time of year, 2 points. One, package thieves. My building had our mailroom ransacked last night, so this is like fresh. But just as a reminder, if you've got mail coming, packages, make sure you pick it up as soon as you can. Don't let strangers into the buildings. All those sorts of normal things. For anyone who doesn't know as well, in terms of mail thieves, you can sign up on the Postal Service it's called Informed Delivery, and they'll send you an email every day with a scan of any of your mail that's coming for that day, so you know kind of if there's something important coming, you can be on the lookout for it, or if you're expecting something, you've got the scan of it, and you can, I don't know, look for it if it's missing. It makes it easier to report missing mail in that regard. That's free on the Postal Service website. I highly encourage it. I love it. And then the second thing is we are entering and in the midst of the holiday season is, the epidemic of loneliness that happens just generally amongst the community and in the world. I think it's not an I think, but this is a time of year where people really feel the loneliness. So reach out to your community members, make people feel loved, attended to, just check in, say hey. And for everyone, wish you all a happy holiday, and we'll see you in the new year as well.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair. Commissioner Pilarski.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. Just a few things here. I attended the Transportation and Mobility Commission on November 19th as the Public Safety Commission's liaison. I mentioned this earlier, but they presented a fantastic dashboard, pulling all the street safety data together, so going to keep everyone informed as to when that's going to go live, and the utility that we can use with all the GPS overlays. And it looks like, and I was actually going to ask Commissioner Hellman about the RFP that was released for traffic signal improvements at La Brea. I know this was one that you had been tracking, so I think I saw that come out on the street recently. The other thing was I did attend the active shooter training on December 6th, and in addition to being a good refresher, it was a fantastic discussion about all the things that you can do to stay alert yourself. So if you check your batteries, check your power packs, check all the things. And the other item I had here was we mentioned something in September and then again in November about the presentation to Neighborhood Watch in Q4. Has that happened yet? Just staff?
So the next Neighborhood Watch Captains meetings are going to kick back off in the beginning of January.
Okay.
So that it'll be after the holidays will be the next meetings. And those, just to be clear, are not public meetings. No. Those are only for our Neighborhood Watch captains that attend those meetings. So the next meetings will be right after the holidays.
All right. Okay. Thank you, staff.
Commissioner Hellman.
Thank you, Chair. I attended two very important events that focused on the same issue. The first was the opening ceremonies of our new AIDS memorial here in West Hollywood Park. It moved me more than I was prepared for, losing friends and a former partner. And then I also attended the World AIDS Day ceremony. I urge everyone to just take a moment and go to the memorial. We are in a different place. We are in a much better place than we were in the 80s and 90s. However, we are still in crises, and people are still being affected by HIV and AIDS and are dying, and we should not forget those that we lost. It's very important that we stay vigilant, especially in a time when our federal government has elected to ignore this crisis.
Thank you to all the commissioners and to everyone here tonight. Unless there are any further comments, we will adjourn until our next regularly scheduled meeting on Monday, January 26th at 6 p.m. right here.
And those that we lost to the HIV/AIDS epidemic, and a dedication to making sure that we're doing all that we can to stop this horrible disease.
We've been working on this